Can I make noise when I eat jelly?
Well, it's already on. Can I have one too? There's nothing. Can I please?
I just gave you. What do you mean?
No, that's not true. There's
Baby,
no, there's nothing.
are you lying to the audience?
No. You didn't even touch the bag. Thank you. This is.
Taro is back.
Taro's back. Thank you for joining today's podcast.
Hello.
You are a hard. Whoa. You are a difficult person to invite.
Taro.
You're a busy man.
Taro.
And today, I wanted to invite you here with me because I wanted to have a discussion.
Taro.
So, as you know, we have a new president in the United States, Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Biden is the 46th president of the United States, and after he's sworn into as the president, he started making a few changes. And one thing that he talked about before he was elected, I think maybe during his campaign, was student loan forgiveness. So student loan is something that, well, in the US, most of the students tend to select that route as they want to pursue higher education, because depending on where you are, higher education is kind of expensive. And especially in states like New York or California. And so for Taro, you are international student. What's the difference between my tuition and your tuition?
My tuition was 4 times expensive than yours.
4 times more expensive than mine?
Yes, it was.
So how much was your
Per
semester?
Per semester, it was 20,000, I think.
20,000?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I think mine is 5,000.
Yeah, 20,000.
Oh.
That's 4 or 5 times. Wow.
So 20,000 times 4. 80,000? You said 20,000 per semester. Ooh, how many semesters are there? 8 semesters. And you had to take student loan as well, right?
My parents did. I cannot do it. Since if you're an international student, you cannot have student loans.
Not from the US.
I think. I'm not 100% sure, but you need to have certain amount of money in your bank account to prove that you can pay tuition till you graduate. So that means you need to be like rich, not rich, have enough money to pay tuition. But my dad didn't have enough money to pay that, so he had to make loans and then put it into one account and show to UT that he has money. But I couldn't do it because I didn't have enough credit to make a loan that big amount. So now I need to pay my tuition back to my dad. And you too.
Oh, yes, I do too. But there is a good news. I've heard rumors that Joe Biden is thinking about student loan forgiveness. So before we talk about student loan forgiveness, I just want to give you like an insight of how many people have student loan in the US and how much student loan do students usually take on average. So in the United States right now, about 70% of the people who have a higher education took out student loans. And on average, the loan amount ranges from $30,000 to any amount above, right? And if we calculate that, that's 45 million people in the US with a total about $1.6 trillion of student loan debt. So first of all, if student loans are going to be forgiven, that's great news for me, because even though I don't have too much student loans. It's still quite a lot. My student loan amount is about $40,000. And if I followed what my borrowers plan, I would pay off the entirety of my loans in like 15 years. And 15 years is not a long time, but it's kind of a long time to be paying something else out of my pocket other than housing and car and insurance and all that kind of stuff that we have to pay now because we're adults. So if student loans are going to be forgiven, I would love that. That's a great idea. However, in reality, how realistic is that? Because he is trying to forgive, is it federal student loans and also private student loans. So I understand if it's from like a federal standpoint, they can use maybe like the government's money, blah, blah, blah. But if it's for private student loans, does that mean he is going to pay it for us? But if he does, like where is that money coming from? And also, having debt in US is almost like a very normal thing. When I think about the idea of having debt, I'm always telling my mom, oh, I don't want to take on more debts. And before, when I reconsider what I wanted to do in the future, I was thinking about medical, right? And I told her, well, I already have $40,000 in debt. If I pursue like medical school, that's going to be like, what, $30,000 more per semester? And how am I going to be able to pay my current loan while I'm in school? And she just told me, well, you just get another loan to pay off this loan. So I'm just doing like loans on loans on loans. And it didn't sound like a ridiculous idea to her. In fact, it just sounds like a very natural response. Yeah, just go borrow more loans, car loans, house loans, mortgage loan, this loan, that loan. And I just feel like it's almost normalized that all Americans are in some sort of debt. Too many people are being too comfortable with having some sort of loans, and it takes time to pay it back, and they are not really in any rush. They're just kind of like, okay, if you say that it's going to be 15 years, I'm going to pay it off in 15 years. There's no sense of urgency in paying off the loan early, but obviously this mindset is going to be different with different groups of people. Some people, like me, I feel very crushed by it, the student loan amount that I have to pay every month. And some other people just continue to rack up more credit card debt. Okay, I'll just use my credit card to pay that off, right? So, of course, I was happy to hear about the possibility of a nationwide student loan forgiveness plan. But I was also worried that if these loans are forgiven, I know it will be a good thing for me, but in a bigger scale, how does it impact the greater economy? So the idea of student loan forgiveness is to alleviate financial burdens and in turn stimulate the economy. Higher education is a hefty economic drag. It limits the possibility of students' career potential because most tend to be less choosy with what kind of job they apply for. So oftentimes they're just jobs that provides quick cash, like part-time job. And I can relate to that because I didn't really even try to find jobs with my degree because I know, first of all, there's not a lot of job open for neuroscience students. And if there is, it's going to take time. But I needed to pay student loans as soon as I get out of school. So I took up part-time job from like Best Buy and from like Starbucks so that I still generate some sort of revenue while I'm looking for a better job. But truth be told, when we're just working like part-time job, there isn't really a lot of time left for you to like build on your resume or build on your portfolio to get a job that you really want. We just didn't have the resources to take that leap. So according to the Washington Post, there are other reasons that student loan debt affects the economy, such as delaying marriage and family orientation. Did you know that married households usually generate more income? So when people are worried about paying off their debt, like getting married or starting a family is not really the top priority on their list because they can barely stay afloat themselves. So that prevents them to create this like a more powerful combo. Also, student loan hampers the growth of small businesses for obvious reasons because they have debt. They can't expend the way that they want to. They have less resources. And having student loan debt also takes a hit on the housing market, especially when it comes to young adults. Now, when we're thinking about getting houses and stuff, we're thinking about people who are kind of middle age and maybe even older, late 30s and 40s, because that's the time that we will be done paying student loans. And that's the time that they can finally start thinking about their actual careers and buying cars and getting mortgages for houses and stuff. Also, it's harder for us to weather financial crisis because we spend all of our paychecks on necessities, and then also for student loan, there's no money left. If there's no money left, there's no money to save. So consequently, it prevents young adults to save up for retirement. And last but not least, large debt causes students to give up on their dreams. So when they go into higher educations, they probably had something in mind. Oh, I want to start my own business. I want to become this, I want to become that. But right after they get out, there's just this one big harsh reality of, okay, you graduated, here's your diploma, and start making your payments for your student loans. They don't really have room to remind themselves, hey, this is what I took out this loan and did this education for. I should focus on making my dreams come true. And I know dreams sounds like a very arbitrary and utopian idea, but imagine if we can put our full effort into creating what we really want to do and then multiply that on a nationwide scale. It would be very beneficial to our economy and just our well-being in general. I just think that our nation will be improved somehow. So before I started thinking about this, how is a nationwide student loan forgiveness plan going to affect this? I looked into how do student loan forgiveness program work. So some programs forgives a portion of your loan, so like $10,000 off, and some just completely erase it all. I had a friend who is working with AmeriCorps or Peace Corps, but they're kind of like international volunteers. So like, say I can go to Africa and teach English for like 10 years, then my student loan will be erased. So I do some sort of like voluntary service, and then that would equate to however amount of debt I have. But these programs, or some of the programs that erase more money, they're really, really hard to get into. According to a podcast that we listened to when we were on our way to, where do we go? We went to this Saturday.
The clothing store.
Oh, yeah. We went to a clothing store in Hannan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on the way I listened to a podcast. It was called the College Investor Audio Show. And he talked about there were hundreds and thousands of applications submitted to these programs, but only a few hundreds were approved. So like about 1% were approved. So it's not very effective. But on the flip side, thinking about student loan forgiveness, it sounds like a great idea. There are also some evidence that suggests canceling student loan balances is not a cost-effective form of stimulus. So ideally, when we're thinking about, getting rid of student loan, is so that people can start spending more money on the economy. But it's not really helpful because it would direct most of the benefit to people who have higher income. It would be better if Congress just provided financial support to families most in need and also most likely to spend. The stimulus provided by forgiving student loans will show up in distant future and doesn't have an instantaneous effect. So if you forgive a portion of someone's loan, say they used to have to pay $300 a month, and now they only pay $100 a month. So you only squeeze out $200 per month for them to spend. And now that you kind of suspended a little bit of their money pressure, they're less likely to spend it on the economy, but they will start taking up other forms of loans. So they would think, okay, now I have $200. Let me save that. Or let me go ahead and try to get a car. And they take on a car loan. So that money does not directly go back into the economy. And eventually, when they pay off their entire student loan, then they have more money. But we're talking about like 3, 5, 10 years down the line. Then the economy will be stimulated. So forgiving student loan is not going to help the economy right now. And also, the student loan forgiveness plans are not targeted to people who are willing to spend, once again. So as of right now, half of the student debts are held by people who have graduate degrees. And even though right now everyone is suffering, on average, the people who have a degree are still doing better than people with less education. So study shows that low income and income declines are more likely to spend on new resources. So it would be better if lawmakers would just target low wages and essential worker rather than young professionals with higher degrees. So I know that means the government won't be able to help everybody, but they will be able to kind of, I guess, close the gap between the educated individuals and the people with low income. But overall, we should just focus on people with low incomes just to help bring them up instead of trying to forgive everyone's debt. Because if you do that, the riches are still going to be rich and the poor are still going to be poor. So the bigger issue in the nation and the economy is still not fixed. So I wanted to, ask you, how do you feel about a student loan forgiveness program? Because I have thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know do you think that this would be a good idea, or do you think that this would be a bad idea, coming from an outsider's perspective, since you're not American?
So first, I don't think there's good idea, bad idea when it comes to politics. It sounds like propaganda, but many administrations, a lot of them said these kind of things when they start their administration. So it cannot be just good or bad. You know what I mean? There's always good side and bad sides. People who are really suffering from the student loan, it could be a solution for them. But people who are not really care about student loan because their family is rich, they doesn't really affect them. And there will be always people who won't be able to use this policy if this really happens.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you said you talk about the economy after 10 years later. But you can't just think only that way, the money way. It could be them without student loan, so they can do more things, not paying debt. So why not they paying their debt? They can have economy works better, do better in 10 years. So there will be many data in 10 years later, but right now it's just difficult to think it is bad or not. But in my opinion, I don't think that's a good idea.
Why not?
Why not? Because you don't know if
You don't know where the money is going to go?
also it could be very not fair to people because everyone has different depths and everyone's situations are so different. It's like you want to there's 100 students in one class and there's one kid who can afford lunch money. But the teacher decide to give 100 students lunch. Do you think this is fair? Because you can use that money to do other stuff with the students. You know what I mean? You can just help those 2 students, and with that money you can do other things. Or you can even help the 2 students more while you're paying lunch money for 98 students.
So the incentives of trying to make it fair and then distribute that to everyone is kind of like a wasteful action in a sense.
For me, yes, but student loan is really a big problem in the States. Yes, because in the States, it's comparing to other countries, they have higher tuition than other countries. So also, these days, college degrees are
Useless.
it's not. I wouldn't say it's worth it, but comparing to the past, it's not really worth it anymore. So there are so many ways to be independent, not just college degree. Then what about people who decided to pursue other ways to become successful, and they got loans, but that's not student loans.
It's like small business owners.
Yeah, small business owners who don't want to be students, who didn't want to go to college, but they also want to learn something, so they made loans.
But those loans are not gonna be. Those loans are not gonna be forgiven because it's not student loans.
Yes, so I think the policy should be much more specific about who are they gonna help first, not forgiving everyone's debt.
I think it should be like income based, because student loan debt. Okay, I could be a very well off family, and I have $30,000 of debt, and let's say if the cutoff line is $30,000, and now my loans are forgiven, but I'm already kind of well off, so I'm like, okay, cool, thanks. Comparing to if it was a family that has lower income and is kind of struggling, but they have $29,000 of debt, and their debt won't be forgiven because it's not above that line, then it would not really be fair to them. And that the other thing that you talked about, how college degrees aren't really worth it these days, there's also like a debate surrounding that. You know how we want to have college education for all? If we do that, this is a really sad idea to think about. The reason why people with college degree have a better chance, supposedly, of getting jobs is because we have a college degree. But if we have college degrees, free college education for all, that means now the starting line is all at people with a bachelor degree. Then that would just keep on pushing people to pursue more education. Because now, oh, I have a college degree. Cool, so does everyone else in the United States. You don't stand out. It does not separate you from the rest. You have no advantage. Then everyone's going to pursue master degree or doctorate degrees, right? And then more student loans. So I don't know how they make decisions about that. Obviously, if they make it all go away, I would be really happy. But then I also worked really hard to pay for my student loans. And if suddenly it all goes away, it's cool and all, but can I get reimbursed with the money that I already paid? You know, there's always going to be people like that. Like, well, I worked hard 5 years doing this, doing that, just to pay my student loans. And now it's just all my efforts are just kind of not
this
recognize.
policy is possible because, like, you know the reason. Like, it's just not possible to pay everyone's debt. But this is politics. They just say things that catch people's ears at first when they start their administration. Trump did it too. And scary thing about this policy is you don't know if Biden is going to be the next president or not. And this kind of policy takes years and years. Do you remember DACA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait.
Obama couldn't even finish it. Even he did for 8 years. And Trump switched it. Trump switched the policy.
So it reverted the progress that DACA made.
Not reverse, but he
Just postponed it.
switched some policies. I remember, I think. So that's my opinion. There's no perfect policy anyway, but I think this is a good idea for people who are really suffering because of COVID,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I remember when COVID first started, it gave us a 6 months, kind of like a 6-month grace period when they said, okay, we will postpone your loan payments without increasing your interest. And that was great because everyone was losing jobs and then reduced work hours. So they have less money to spend. And we have to fight for toilet paper, fight for food, fight for water. And on top of that, we still have to make student loan payments. So that wasn't really realistic. But another thing that they mentioned was that instead of forgiving like the total amount of student loans, if you just put pauses like that, will also help stimulate the economy. Because when you put it on pause, they can spend that money on somewhere else. Because they know that for this period of time, I don't have to worry about student loan payments. So let me just go ahead and buy this, buy that, buy this, buy that, while I still have the money. And then once the period ends, I can go back to ramen every day. But student loan forgiveness means the government is paying money. Government is the one that's paying our student loan off, right? But US is already in like trillions of debt. Where are they going to get this money from?
They just keep making papers.
But then that drives up inflation.
So they gotta control how much money they make.
Inflation is... What is inflation again?
I'm not 100% sure, but the worth of money is going down. So for example, ramen is $1 now. If inflation happens, ramen is $10. So the $1 is worth less than before. You know what I mean? So
Because
because the worth of money went down. The worth of dollar went down.
because we made more money. And then that means our currency conversion will also go down.
I'm not sure. Listeners, please don't listen to us.
And then we were thinking about, if government is going to do this, they're going to raise tax. But with COVID and everything, the economy... Are we in recess right now?
The recess means going down.
Recess, like the economy is in recession.
Stock-wise, no.
Stock-wise, no. Oh, okay.
It's going up.
It's going up? Because... Why is it going up?
Because it was going down. When COVID happened, the stock market went down so much, and now
We're reviving?
yes, because people started to realize what kind of industry will rise after pandemic. So they started to put more money on stocks.
What kind of industry is that?
IT.
Zoom?
It was IT. It's gonna be a heavier weight on IT. So they're gonna do more delivery service, which is related to Amazon, which is IT,
Oh, yeah.
and
Amazon is
more Apple. No, Amazon is not IT, but they make IT stuff like Amazon is related to IT companies.
Alexa and stuff.
And also Apple. Apple is gonna go up more.
Apple never dies.
You don't know. Yeah. Also, NVIDIA. Those kind of stuff. Zoom? No, not really. I think Zoom is gonna stay here. Say the same price. I'm not sure. Why are we talking about stocks? There's IT and environmental stuff like electric car, H2 something car.
I just thought that it's probably the field that persisted through pandemic. So things that we realized that we needed more of. So probably like technology-wise, because without technology, we could not even go to work. Right? It's just not possible for you and I. So, on and on.
Cloud service too.
Cloud service? Like streaming?
No. You're using your
iPhone?
no
iPod?
the social security number.
Ah,
I think it's gonna be all digital in the future.
that's scary. I should just be a hacker.
Everything. Everything will be digital.
I was just curious about the idea of student loan forgiveness because that was one of the news that I heard. And I thought, is it really going to be a good thing? Is it going to be a bad thing? Like for me, it's going to be a great thing. But and on a wider scale, I can only exist if there's like an economy. So, but I guess the moral of the story is we will never know if it actually happens.
You gotta keep an eye on it.
Keep my eye on it.
Mhm.
I will, because paying student loan. Imagine if I'm just throwing up so much money at student loans and I can just unthrow it. I would not make so much payment every month.
If I can go to college for free, I would go to graduate school too.
Scholarship is also an option, but it's always hard. So thank you for your insightful opinion on just things that I'm curious about, as usual. Thanks for coming to the podcast, Taro.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the 20th podcast of Lactose Intolerant. Just listening to whatever my mind wanders. And everyone be safe. Be cautious of COVID still. And I will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.